Did you start this year thinking, that's it, I'm done, I'm moving abroad, but yet 7 months down the line, you're still stuck exactly where you are? If that's you, don't worry, this is the video for you because I'm going to break down the 7 key reasons why people get stuck moving abroad and, more importantly, exactly what you can put in place to make sure that you don't get stuck in that pattern. So after 5 years of helping hundreds of people make their moves abroad, I know that this is not an easy place to be in. You know why? Because I've been there myself. And you know what? It probably wasn't until a good few years into being truly settled in Grenada that I was able to unpack exactly what the biggest issue was. And I realized all of these people presenting themselves to me on these journeys that they can't quite make happen. While the scenarios might differ from person to person, what it really boils down to is fear, self-doubt, and resistance. But let's take a deep dive into exactly how that shows up in 7 different ways that I see again and again and again. But I'm not going to berate you. I'm going to give you the solutions that you need in order to get out. And if you're serious about getting out, I'm hosting a workshop, a virtual workshop next Sunday for people who are really committed to making their moves, who need that clarity and also want that support on a regular basis. We're kicking off next Sunday. We'll be meeting monthly, and that accountability and that support is really what's going to help you get that momentum. And in the meantime, let's dive into the 7 key reasons why you are not making the progress that you want to. Reason number 1 is fear of the unknown. As human beings, we're conditioned to love familiarity. What's safe and known is something that we can feel comfortable with. If it's safe, it means we survived over thousands of years interacting with what we know, and it's trusted, it's tried, and we can rely on it. Taking ourselves out of our comfort zone and moving somewhere completely new can feel exciting, but it can also feel really, really risky, and getting caught up on the risk is natural. If that's something that you're experiencing, please don't beat yourself up about it. It is entirely normal. And I think it's important to have respect for the seriousness of the journey that you're about to embark upon. But where it becomes an issue is when that uncertainty begins to fester and turn into a big bad monster that gives you anxiety and stress and unease and stops you from making the progress that you need to make. So taking the time to acknowledge, actually, I'm really scared. Actually, I'm super fearful about what this might mean, probably is a lot more honest than ignoring it and brushing it under the carpet. And once you take the time to look it in the eyes and assess, okay, exactly what am I scared about? Map it out, put it down on paper. And then when you start dissecting it, you can see all the little pieces that are the building blocks that are holding you back. And once you're clear, then you have a route to really navigate those realities and start creating alternatives. Reason number 2 is getting stuck on the logistics. Now, I feel, and you can check out all of the interviews that I've done over the past 5 years, is that people either fall into one of 2 camps, or you're a planner, who's all about the spreadsheet, the information overload, tie into how everything maps out, or you're a wing it, suck it and see, I'll figure out how it goes along. I can't say that one is better than the other, but one thing I can say for a fact is that the people that I see regularly wanting to move and asking questions in multiple different forums, in multiple different ways, the fact is that they got totally hung up on the logistics, is that wanting to have everything absolutely perfect, being so obsessed with visas and the right neighborhood and the right car and the right bank card. And the fact is, as we addressed before, what you're doing does involve a degree of risk. And there is absolutely no way that you can plan out every single uncertainty that's going to happen. So taking the time to realize, okay, exactly what do I need to have in place in terms of logistics, and what logistics do I need to have answered for right now versus what logistics do I need to have in place for the rest of my life. That's a subtle but important difference that many people don't understand and don't realize. And not being able to recognize the difference between the two can keep you spiraling around and around and around. And you might have a whole Google Drive folder with multiple different options. But as long as all those options stay on the folder and you stay where you are, that's not getting you to where you need to be. So at some point, you need to be able to embrace a degree of surrender, trust yourself, trust the process, and realize you're always able to pivot if necessary. Reason number 3 are money worries. Now, I don't know how many of you never need to think about the finances. I'm definitely not that person. But I think one thing that it really is important to reflect on is that there really is no magic number. So I've heard many people say again and again that you shouldn't move abroad until you have 6 figures in the bank. I feel like I've mentioned this before, but I've never had 6 figures in the bank. So if I was going to wait for that point until I was able to move, I would be stuck exactly where I was, wishing and dreaming and hoping, but feeling held back by the fact that I didn't have the so-called right amount of finances in place. 1,000% making sure that you have a buffer because things are going to go differently to how you plan they will makes complete financial sense. Building in that financial ease and that sense of grace is really, really, it's a lovely gift to give to yourself. So do that if you can. But understanding that there are multiple different ways to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, and that the most capital intensive strategy might not be the best for you. When you understand why you're moving and what you want to achieve, sometimes you're actually able to get a little bit more creative with what the finances look like. And in many cases, not for me, but moving abroad can be a way to save money. If you're moving to a place where the cost of living is really low, where medical care is available quite accessibly, you could actually be saving money compared to where you are now. And I do know of a number of people who've moved in order so that they can pay off credit cards, pay down their student debt. And it involves adopting a different lifestyle, but ultimately the freedom that they're seeking is something that becomes available. So really take the time to understand what the numbers look like for you and have a really realistic idea as to how you're going to put that in place. And don't let the figures and the finances and the idea that everything has to be perfect or about having really big bucks deter you from making your move. Reason number 4, and I think I see this more with Black folks than anyone else, is guilt or fear of leaving people behind, letting people down. Now, I know that for many of us, the amount of time and effort that our ancestors have put into, fighting to get us to where we are now in life is something that really can't be taken for granted. And especially for my African American clients, you guys built your country. Why should you have to leave? Those are really, really valid questions. But one of the things that I see cropping up again and again, and I think we can label it as a variation of post-traumatic slave syndrome, is that sense of fear and responsibility to keep everyone happy and to let everyone know that I'm safe and everything is going to be as it always has been can be a massive sort of stranglehold around your neck that stops you from living in the way that you truly want to live. It's something that I've experienced in my own family. I've shared before by my own grandmother, who was born and raised in Grenada, thought I was absolutely crazy to leave the UK and move here with my family. And a number of people in my family, really weren't happy and really don't respect the decision that I've made. And I know for many people, that sort of familial feedback can be quite daunting, can be like a massive thing to have to push against. And so that guilt about having the audacity to chase your own dreams can be something that really, really holds people back, especially if you have children. And I empathize with you. I can understand what that's like. But I think in terms of a solution, ultimately, this is your life. This one here, right now, you don't know what any other version might look like. So focusing on the fact that you're living this life and you want to live it in a way that makes sense to you, that you want to find happiness in a way that makes sense to you, and you want to fail in a way that makes sense to you. That's your prerogative. I kind of feel that's your birthright. And people who love and respect and care for you, while your move may trigger them, at some point they need to be able to own what's their emotion, and you need to be able to own what's yours and to distinguish between the two so that you have the freedom to move where you want to move on your own principles. So this is a tough one. I know if you have aging parents, if you have children, there's so many different variations where we really feel that responsibility means we have to stay where we are. But I believe that there's scope to play with it. It doesn't have to be the way that it is. And separating what truly matters to you and the value of keeping people happy versus you being happy yourself is a really tough but honest distinction to make. And number 5, this one, I'm really sorry, but it drives me crazy. It's that I've got to wait until I'm ready. When are you ready? What does ready look like? How so many people I come across are waiting for the perfect moment. And the reality is that the perfect moment never exists. I'm sitting here in a house that my parents purchased over 20 years ago. The person who wanted to make the move was my mother. I think she purchased the house probably in her late 40s, early 50s. Cash, no mortgage to pay. The idea was that they would come back here and live the dream. Unfortunately, my mother passed away at age 54 and was never able to enjoy her hard work that she put in, sucking it up in the UK, fighting on the front lines of racial justice and everything else. Was she waiting for her perfect moment? Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but she could have moved and she didn't. And I think that thing of waiting for the right time, waiting until everything is aligned and all your ducks in order, I think my lived reality has been a big part of why I wasn't going to wait until I was retired, because who's going to say that I'm going to live till I'm retired? That doesn't mean that it's an invitation to be foolhardy or risky, but the only time that's guaranteed is now. And you need to make decisions that make sense for you with where you are in life. And waiting for the perfect moment, it's just the moment you have is now. There is no such thing as perfection. There's only perfection by learning, failing, and doing better until you die. So if you have a consultation with me, and I do one-on-ones, and you give me the waiting for the perfect moment line, trust me, there's going to be some pushback on that one, because there's no such thing as perfection. There's better times than others. And I personally took 10 years to make this move. So trust me, I'm not telling you to rush, but the idea that there's perfection, no, doesn't exist. Reason number 6 is fear of failure. And if I'm going to be honest, the one point where I almost was like, do you know what? I don't think I can handle this, was the fear of failure. So after 10 years of planning, getting stuck in the UK during the pandemic and 8 cancelled flights, when it finally came, I was like, holy schmoly, am I going to do this? What happens if it all goes wrong? And unlike other times when I moved abroad, when it was just me or me and my partner, this time I was doing it with 3 children. I was going to be physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually responsible for 3 other beings other than just me. And the idea of getting that wrong was almost overwhelming. And that sense of responsibility really can hit you in a way that can paralyze you. And for me, luckily, there was enough momentum behind me. I knew my why. I had put everything in motion. I had taste tested. I knew why I was doing it. But that fear of failure can be a real thing. And until you're willing to redefine failure as learning, it can definitely be something that can trip you up. And for me personally, on this journey, have there things that have not gone according to plan? Absolutely. I'd say most things haven't gone the way that I thought they would. But does that mean that I've failed? I wouldn't say so. It means that I've learned, and I've taken each opportunity to extract the lessons and to integrate them into my actions going forward. So ultimately, it becomes about growth. And that's a really, really important distinction, and giving yourself the liberty to fail, the liberty to learn, I should say, is a really, really important strategy, not just for moving, but in life generally. And so when I'm coaching folks one-on-one, one of the things I say is to just treat your move as an experiment. You know, nothing is set in stone. Even if you sell your house and decide to move to the other side of the world, there is a way to get back. Nothing is permanent, so everything can be readjusted. So give yourself some ease. It's not absolute. It's not a binary win or fail. I mean, it's life. It just happens to be life somewhere else. So forget about failing. Just take that option off the table. And number 7 is a tricky one to give a title to. So we'll just call it deep unconscious blocks. And this one is about the sort of underlying issues that keep you in doubt, keep you questioning, keep you thinking, is this really for people like me? You know, do people like me do this? Do people like me move abroad in their 30s or 40s? Do people like me quit a safe corporate job and go have a completely different lifestyle? You know, all of the shoulds, all of the conditioning, which is something that I talk about again and again and again, that really reckoning with everything that we've been told and that process of extracting to actually know, liberate yourself and create the life that you know that you're supposed to lead, that can really grab you by the ankles and make you feel firmly like there's no other route other than staying where you are if you're going to stay safe. And it's linked to fear, and it's natural. All of us have to deal with that to some degree or the other. But I think for many people, that is the thing that keeps them trapped. It's kind of like the momentum on the hamster wheel of like, I'm going, and everyone else is going. Can I stop? It happens. And at some point, you notice that you are in motion. And at some point, you have to make a choice as to whether you're going to stop or not. And it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. It can result in some really deep shadow work. But leaning into your shadows and integrating them is a really necessary part of your journey. And the best way to start questioning all of that is to really start challenging those beliefs. You know, why can't it be done? Why do I feel that this is the only option? And to be honest, that's a real part of the reason why I started the Exodus Collective. Back then, there wasn't so much storytelling on people who looked like me in my situation making moves to the Caribbean. Yeah, there were a few who moved to West Africa, but in terms of the Caribbean, it was seen as a place for all retirees or millionaires who are buying passports. But the reality is that there are a number of people who are in that in-between category who can't wait until they've got 8 figures in the bank and they don't want to wait until they're retired. So what happens to us? What happens to us is that we move. And to see more and more folks taking that step, leaning into their bravery, choosing to do things differently, to craft their own script, is exciting. It's not easy. It is fearful. And I honor anyone who's willing to explore. Even you exploring is more than most people do. So kudos to you. Don't give yourself a hard time for the fact that you haven't made the progress that you could have done, because it's hard. It is difficult. And I think in this video, while I'm acknowledging that, yes, there are key themes that keep people stuck, I'm also acknowledging that there is validity to all of them, and yet still there are also pathways out. And so if any of these reasons resonate with you, please drop me a note in the comments. I want to know, what's the most frequently occurring issues? Where do you disagree with me? How is this showing up in your life? Because I think it's really important to be honest. And I think the one thing that I try not to do is to pull the wool over your eyes and say, yes, it's going to be easy. You just click your fingers and go. Nah, that's not the way that it happens. And acknowledging the fact that it's not easy really is the motivation behind the workshop that I'm hosting on Sunday, that really helps you to get clear on your move. It's all about getting clear on the motives behind your move and starting to identify, okay, what's holding me back? What are these challenges? So that I can then put the habits in place to really address them and start building that momentum, that anti-clockwise momentum, we can call it, the anti-hamster wheel, the one that's going to swing and swing and swing and eventually fling you off in the direction that you want to be, rather than retirement and a golden clock on your mantelpiece. So this 2-hour session is designed to be a really transformative, foundational piece in your strategy. I love the fact that you watch my videos, but the reality is you need a lot more. You need the blocks put in place. You need the time to get clear and to be really efficient and really strategic about what it is that you're trying to do. And getting clear on your why is so important. And also addressing your fears, because this issue is going to crop up again and again and again. And the stronger your foundations are, the more solidly you're going to be rooted anytime that you come up against challenges, whether that's in the process of moving or even once you're overseas, because trust me, the challenges don't stop once you leave the UK or the US's shores. So in the session, we'll take time to map out your vision, but also map out the hurdles so that you really can get clear as to what your roadmap looks like And at the end of that 2 hour process, you'll have your roadmap, you'll have feedback from me and my co-facilitator, Chetty, but also more importantly, you'll be learning in conjunction with a number of other people who are also on a similar journey. And one of the things that I found about hosting masterminds before is that collaborative effort really makes a massive difference in terms of that shared energy. So while you might turn up with one specific issue that you're looking to tackle, seeing how someone else is addressing that and the advice that they receive is an information that you can pull into your scenario for your greater good. And that begins to generate into something that really takes on a life of its own. And furthermore, one of the things I've also seen is that, yes, you might have a one-on-one with me, or yes, you might join a group session, but really, again, that momentum, putting those reps in, trying, failing, getting advice really makes a difference. So one of the key features that we're offering in this group is to have monthly check-ins. So you're not just coming and sitting down with us for 2 hours and then you're on your own. Every month, we will check in with you to see, okay, what have you come up against? How can we group source solutions to this so that really you get the motivation and accountability to really make your move a reality? So for this initial cohort, you get 12 months access to monthly calls in addition to the 2 hour workshop. There are currently only 12 spaces left because I really want this to be an intimate group where you really get the time that you need and everyone gets a chance to have their questions answered. We really want this to be an intimate group where everyone has a chance to share and be listened to and gain the knowledge and information and support that they need. Enrollment closes on Friday evening, so book your tickets today. And if there's specific information that you need, do feel free to book a one-on-one call with me. The link is in the description. I hope this information has resonated with you in a way that's not triggering. It's not labeling. As a woman who took 10 years to move, trust me, I know that it's not easy, but it can be done. And with a strategy, you can make the progress that you need to make. And before you go, check out this video up here where I get really honest about all the things that I got wrong in the process of making my move and also the assumptions that I make. I'm showing the receipts. It's not easy, and yet still multiple years on, I'm still here and I'm still loving it and failing and winning and lifing at the same time. So if I can do it, you can too. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in person or virtually soon.